George. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So,
Okay.
we have been talking a lot about Digital Rupee, right?
True.
And recently we have also published our op-ed in Business World, right? We'll maybe
Yes.
post the link somewhere in the description. But it was a fascinating conversation and work. I mean, fascinating to work together on this. So a lot of
Yes.
brainstorming has done. So as we decided, let's just bring those thoughts here with our audience
True.
here, right? And maybe we'll come up with more points, which perhaps that time we did not even consider, right? So why don't you go ahead and first share your ideas or your understanding of digital rupee? What is the purpose of it? How is it going to go? And then maybe I'll pitch in.
Okay. Well, so the way I see the digital rupee, I think it's a good innovation, something required for the Indian economy, considering the huge amount of cash that we use, right? We were always a very cash dominant sort of society. We've remained a very cash sort of a pro cash society, right? Cash in the form of hard currency, right? The demonetization event was something that sort of shook up this entire cash denominated economy. And then post demonetization, it hardly took the Indian population. Um, or the Indian economy, for that matter. It took them around 6 months to maximum 1 year to get back to the previous levels and go beyond, right? We are much higher at a cash to GDP ratio than before. Uh, and what is interesting is this is all riding on ever increasing or exponentially increasing digital transactions, right? So a huge number of transactions are happening digitally. All the large transactions are happening digitally. A very large number of small transactions, thanks to UPI, are happening digitally. So at one end, you've got the RTGS payments, etc., which are more than 2 lakhs, which happen over the internet, and they happen digitally. And you've got UPI catering to small retail payments of maybe even 1 rupee, right? I've made a payment of 1 rupee for a sheet of paper at a photocopy shop, right? And I did not have change. And the person said UPI kar do, and it's 1 rupee payment, no
I've also
charge,
done that.
right? Yeah.
Yes, I've also done
So
that.
I mean, to that extent, we've got 1 rupee payments also happening on UPI and seamlessly, right? There's no delay, there is no problem. It is totally accepted. Right? One of the biggest, I think, my research also shows that one of the biggest things that hold people back is when there are no network support, right? If retailers, if that photocopier was not willing to accept a 1 rupee transaction into his account, then I would not have been able to pay that. I would have had to maybe look for money or given him 10 rupees and said I'll take 9 rupees later or something like that, right? Or I would have to be on his mercy and see if he'd allow a 1 rupee loan, right, until I pay him off. But this, my transaction is settled, right? Even with that 1 rupee, I don't even need to worry about maybe a 10 paisa, 20 paisa, whatever charge which would have been allocated to that transaction, right? I wouldn't be able to do a 1 rupee transaction on a credit card because for the merchant, it does not make sense. For the bank, it does not make sense, right? But then UPI allows that, and digital rupee is somewhere going a step beyond, right? It is saying that you do not, we will not even depend on UPI, uh, which is promoted by the NPCI, but then the NPCI and the RBI, the NPCI being a offshoot of the RBI, the NPCI also saying that, and the RBI specifically saying that we should not have dependency on a single entity, right? NPCI is still a separate entity carved from these banks and with the RBI guidelines, etc. But we should not have dependence on a single entity for everything. So RBI in one of its documents had also mentioned that they'd want a competitor to the UPI also to be available. Right? There are banks working on that, but considering how far the UPI has seeped in, I think that's going to be difficult. But somewhere, I think digital rupee is going to be that leveler again, where the dependence on UPI might not need to continue, right? There is a central bank sponsored platform on which all these transactions happen. And That platform itself is so interesting. The learnings from UPI can all be incorporated here, and UPI itself, I mean, from a developing country like India, right? The scale of um, technology supported ease that has come for consumers, I think that is great, and Digital Rupee will just take this thing much further.
Yeah. So, but do you see digital rupee coming up as a competitor to UPI? I mean, do you think it's going to take up over UPI? How do you see that space?
See, as far as this space is concerned, I think even if it does take over UPI, it's going to be a long drawn out sort of journey. The interesting thing that I see, I mean, one very uh, tangible benefit I see after having updated my SBI passbook, right,
Mm-hmm.
um, is that with the digital rupee, at least that huge what confusion that happens on your bank account, your savings bank account, that is going to change, right? Because of UPI, now you have maybe thousands of transactions per
Yes.
month, right? And for you to update a physical passbook the way these public sector banks have the passbook that they have, it is it is torture, right? Because uh, 1 week can take up 2 or 3 passbooks. Right? So in that light, I think because the digital rupee is going to be off the account, right? These are
Yes.
going to be all off account transactions. At least that
Yes.
the sanctity of that savings account is going to remain, right? What was the
Mm-hmm.
difference between a savings account and a current account? Basic difference was the number of transactions, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
on a current account, you could have unlimited
Right.
transactions, but therefore you do not get interest and stuff. On a savings account, they don't charge you what they charge you on a current account, but then you have a limited number of transactions so that the banking system
Mm-hmm.
is not troubled by that. Digital
Right.
rupee, because the transaction, once you transfer from your account onto your digital wallet, your digital rupee wallet, then it's all off account, right? So your transaction is then happening only at the wallet level. So at
Mm.
least that way, I see a fair amount of, I mean, should I call it rationalization or some efficiency coming in? Because otherwise, your entire bank account is also getting stressed.
Mm.
So
You're right.
therefore, I see that as a potential, and because of which I see a value there. How much of a how much of a value proposition would be left for UPI post the full implementation and the full penetration of digital rupee? That is a question and a question mark. But it still is going to be interesting to see how that sort of tension pans out. Right now, it's not tension. Right now, it's co-learning sort of thing. But then going forward, once it becomes a competition, I definitely see some sort of uh, a tension coming up.
Mm.
What are
Yeah.
your views?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, even I am not sure whether digital rupee is going to take up UPI or not, because some of the purposes are pretty much similar, synonymous. I mean, there's a potential, but then the question is, should both the products come from the government's home? I mean, it's come from the government, right? And would they like one product to cannibalize the other, especially one which is so widely successful that other countries are trying to emulate that? Right, but let's take a step back, and I'd just like to discuss with you the very purpose for which digital rupee has been introduced. And RBI has launched a concept note on digital rupees specifically. And I find that there are three basic purposes or three basic objectives which the RBI is trying to fulfill through digital rupee. One, of course, is the reduction in cash, and you have already touched upon that point. I mean, I guess last fiscal year we had around 5,000 crores spent just in printing money, right? The very cost of printing and managing money was around more than 5,000 crores. Now, this is a humongous cost, right? And RBI wants to bring that down. And cash is a very inefficient way of running an economy, right? I mean, currency notes get torn. Sometimes you lose track of that. I mean, a lot of issues with managing it, handling it. There's no trail of this, right? So it's a very inefficient way of managing economy, right? And I think when UPI came in, uh, especially for example with the demonetization thing, irrespective of all the criticisms around it, but one thing that did happen was people started using UPIs, people started using digital payments, right? That time there was no option, but then it gradually transcended into more habitual thing for many Indians. Now we are more comfortable with digital payments, right? And UPI has really enabled that. Okay. uh, Now with digital rupee, that barrier that people usually previously had about security concerns, about safety concerns, those will not be there, right? But as the RBI says that we have to reduce the usage of cash. Now, this is something which is a noble cause from the regulator's perspective. I guess from economic perspective, absolutely okay. But from an average user's perspective, especially a country which lives on cash, which breathes on cash. I mean, if you have money in your pocket, it gives you much more sort of safety than the amount that you have in a bank account. Like it gives you, I mean, if 1,000 rupee in your wallet when you go out is much more valuable, at least in our mindset, than 10,000 in your bank account, right? So in a society which is so what do you call fascinated, or which is so dominant with the cash, with cash and the importance of cash, this very perspective can come up as a challenge for digital rupee, that because at the end of the day you cannot redeem digital rupee into cash, at least directly. Okay, we'll come to a way that it might be, but then you cannot redeem it. I mean, you have it in your digital wallet and you cannot redeem it. That's the very, very value proposition of digital rupee. uh, and this is where UPI is different, that UPI does bank to bank transfer, bank account to bank account, right? That from my bank account I can send money to your bank account through UPI, right? But in case of digital rupee, I'll have to have a digital wallet, you will have to have a digital wallet, and I can transfer my e-rupee, that is digital rupee, from my wallet to your wallet. And at no point you can convert that digital rupee into cash, that is from ATM or anywhere. You cannot convert that. So that way what happens is that money is flowing from one account to another, money is flowing in the economy, but it cannot be redeemed into cash. Since it cannot be redeemed into cash, so RBI does not need to print that money, right? Because the money is there in digital form. RBI does not need to print that money, so that cost of printing cash will come down, right? So that's one of the value propositions, which is excellent. But then for an average user like in India, coming out of that mindset that will not deal with in cash and only in digital form, that might be a challenge which the regulators will have to come up. That's the first one. Second is providing an alternative to cryptocurrencies, and that's another stated objective that RBI has written in its concept note for digital rupee. Now, the fundamental difference here is that, and this is where I'm very skeptic about this very objective. If you look at cryptocurrencies, I mean, why are cryptocurrencies so successful? One is it decentralized DLT, decentralized distributed ledger technology, right? There's no trail. You cannot really do that. It's safe, it's secured, right? And since cryptocurrencies around the world have not yet been considered as a currency yet, where you can buy and sell goods, leave aside El Salvador, but in majority of the countries. So right now it's more like an asset form. It's like an asset where you buy it or sell, or you sell it more as an trading, if not investment, at least as a trading to gain some money. And it's in decentralized DLT, decentralized distributed ledger technology. Digital rupee will be in a centralized DLT, right? This is the major difference. That means RBI is going to entirely control that blockchain. It will know who is, if it wants, it can know who is transacting what, right? That's one. Second, the digital rupee that will be kept in the digital wallet at no point will give us any income. There is no interest. The value will not rise. It's just like money stored in your physical wallet, like physical currency note, because it's going to digital rupee is going to mimic the physical currency. So at no point the digital rupee will give us any income. It will not give us any interest, and it's in a centralized DLT, right? So in my question, so my skepticism comes from there. Why should I ever think digital rupee as an alternative to cryptocurrencies? Today, if I buy Bitcoin or say Ethereum or any other cryptocurrencies, I do it because I think it might appreciate in value. That's one. And also,
Speculation.
it's yes, speculation, right? My digital rupee is not going to give that. So I may use both, but at no point I think as an user I'll ever think the digital rupee that I have is an alternate to owning some more Bitcoin or some more Ethereum, right? So I find that I see this as a skepticism, but nevertheless, this has been stated as an objective that they are trying to place this as an alternative to cryptocurrencies. Okay, and the third one is cross-border payments, right? And in cross-border payments, the idea is that through digital rupee, since there's no bank account involved, it's a wallet, so it's going to be much more seamless, much more faster, right? But however, again, here it a lot of infrastructures to come in place, and also the host country has to agree to it. I mean, I can transfer you money. For example, you are in US and I'm in India. I'll transfer digital rupee to you, but then conversion also has to happen, right? How do I redeem? How do you redeem the digital rupee into dollars in US, right? So that's a challenge. So there a lot of things has to have to come in place, right? So these are the major three objectives. There are many others that are listed, but majorly these three are there. So out of these three, I see reduction in physical cash is a more realistic one as of now, right? But coming back to the same point where we are talking of, can it replace UPI? Okay, I don't see that happening in the near term, because just for the simple reason that with UPI, I have the option of doing having both cash and digital transfers, right? I can have the best of both worlds, right? With digital rupee, I'll not have the best of both worlds, right? So from a regulator perspective, digital rupee is much more preferable compared to UPI. But from a user perspective, like common person like me, UPI is more preferable to digital rupee, right?
True.
So
True.
that's what's your take on this, and yeah.
Okay. So I'll just like to comment on the three objectives that you mentioned, and then come to this aspect also. On the three, the first one, the RBI's reduction of its expenses on cash, that is noble and that is required also, right? There are countries which have currency notes which are in plastic, right? They are a little more expensive to print, but they last much longer than the paper currency that we have. Our paper currency, it loses its what the quality, right?
Hmm.
Even in one use, as soon as you take it out of the bank, you keep it in your wallet, it gets bent, and it starts looking a little worn and torn out, worn and old and stuff, right? So countries like Australia, UAE, etc., they have plastic printed currency.
Even those are
Much,
non-sustainable.
yes,
Environmental perspective, those
true.
are
Yes,
non-sustainable.
that is also there, right? But those, at least they last much longer. The currency notes, feel good factor stays for much longer, right? But that aside, that is more expensive to print, so the government would not want to get into that side also, right? Counterfeit currency, all those are problems, but leave that aside. Just on a pure cost basis, for RBI, this makes a lot of sense. As far as the alternate to cryptocurrency is concerned, I think, as consumers, most of and the general public always thinks of cryptocurrency from the alternate use that it has been put to, right? Cryptocurrencies were never meant to be investment vehicles, right? They're not an investment vehicle. Uh, they've become an investment vehicle on the riding on the shoulders of speculation only, right? In cryptocurrencies were meant for um, reflecting everything that money in general can do, right? Which is being fractional, which is being instant, which is being accepted by everyone, all those things without that centralized control, right? Here also, because there is no centralized control, there is the um, with digital rupee also, because the settlement is happening instantly, right? There is no end of the day or batch-wise settlement happening at the central bank at one point of time, right? So all that is not happening. Therefore, it reflects the cryptocurrency more, right? Because it is cryptocurrency is also instant settlement, right? So that way, from all those perspectives of cryptocurrency, yes, digital rupee will mimic cryptocurrency, but not from the speculative aspect, which is something that the RBI is also not formally commenting on, right? Because RBI looks down on cryptocurrency, one, because it loses control, and second, because of all that speculation any governmental regulatory body does not want consumers to be exposed to speculation. So that is never an objective, and that would never have been an objective as far as the digital rupee also is concerned. International um, trade or international transactions, that is very interesting. Um, I've been seeing newspaper headlines on on Google News, maybe because I've been reading on such things, but of UAE and Sri Lanka, etc., accepting the rupee as a form of currency, form of payment and things, right? So somewhere with economies like that, right? If someone in Sri Lanka also has a digital rupee account, I can transfer my digital rupee to him and he can accept that and use that as normal currency, because trade is otherwise also accepting rupee, right? So therefore, as India's influence increases and as the rupee becomes stronger in trade, the digital rupee will ride on that, and it will become stronger too, because this transfer between a digital rupee to a digital dollar, right, that is not going to be very seamless, right? Currently also it is not seamless. Later on also it's not going to be very seamless, because there is always going to be that what do you call it, the um, currency rate which is going to come in, and there are external factors which are determining all that. Right now, when you have SWIFT transactions for international trade, you have the conversion happening at a certain rate and then the transfer happening, right? So therefore, there is full clarity of what is the rate at which it is getting transferred. The receiver knows, the sender knows at what rate, what are the charges that I'm paying for this. With UPI spreading across and with digital rupee, that the clarity which is there in the system right now, with the costs involved, that would need to be clarified, and that might take some time, and it would be interesting to see how countries address this aspect, right? So my few comments on those three parts. Now for the UPI to digital rupee thing, you'd mentioned something about it was about the I'm forgetting that point, but do you recall what did you mention about UPI to digital rupee? The Your
Uh,
comment on that.
I was talking of the difference, I guess.
Yeah, somewhere. But anyway, it'll come. It'll come
Okay.
later on. We can come back to that part also. But then between digital rupee and UPI, I think somewhere one
I think I
good
was
thing is.
mentioning that from a regulator perspective, digital rupee is more preferable. From a user's perspective, UPI is more preferable because it gives us the
Yes,
option of both cash and
true, true.
the best
Right,
of both worlds. But digital rupee
true.
does not give us the best. I think it's, yeah.
Actually, yes. So I now I remember my what I wanted to say on that. The UPI also was a push, right? We had to be pushed to uh, understand that just pulling something out of our wallet, out of our pocket, and an instant payment happening, that was historical. But now pulling something out of your pocket and then scanning something and making a payment. So what UPI did is it added a step, right? So if you look at a transaction for a consumer, earlier they could take out maybe money directly from their pocket, pay someone, take the change, keep it back, right? So transaction completed. UPI brought in one more step. You take out your phone, scan, pay, and transaction is complete now, right? So what, therefore, from digital rupee to UPI is adding one more step. Sorry, from cash to the UPI is one more step added, slightly more complicated, but people have learnt it, maybe because of the stress that demonetization and maybe later on COVID, how uh, people were forced to shift to digital transactions. They were, I mean, that the inertia towards that extra step was reduced because of those external effects. Now, between the UPI and the digital rupee, also, if you notice, there is just one additional step, right? Which is from your account, you transfer onto your wallet, right? And you can do that prior. You can store money in your wallet also. Uh, people have been using things like Paytm wallet, phone pay wallet, etc., right? And they keep maybe 1,000 rupees. Phone Paytm, in fact, because of um, now I need to keep money on my stored in my Paytm wallet because I have one FASTag which is linked to my Paytm wallet, right? So to make sure that that FASTag is loaded, I need a balance in my Paytm account, and I don't mind keeping maybe 1,000 rupees there as just as a precaution. Ki there is money lying there. Similarly, I might not mind for some transactions that I need to do over the month, that as soon as my salary comes in, I transfer 2,000, 5,000 rupees onto my digital wallet. So that is that additional step which will come. But then once people have become used to that additional step, then what happens is paying by UPI versus paying by digital wallet is going to be synonymous, right? As far as the effort is concerned, right? They're going to be exactly reflecting each other. Now, putting that money into my loading my digital wallet every month, or making sure that there is a balance being maintained in my digital wallet, that is the inertia that the government needs to look at to make digital rupee more accepted, more efficient, right? And how is it going to do that? I think DBT, as we had discussed, could be one of those key links where you're not actually making it top down, right? Some way you're going to have all these accounts, digital rupee accounts, which will be created for direct benefit transfer. And then because there is that money which is there with people, right? And the people want to spend that, then therefore words the infrastructure, right? So now maybe considering a village where um, people have received money from based on the direct benefit transfer, and now all of these people, they have their digital rupee accounts, right? Now the shopkeeper at that place, right, he'll be inclined to also get a digital rupee account, because he knows if I have a digital rupee account versus my neighbor, I will be able to transact with all these people who've got money in their digital wallets. So therefore, he's going to start accepting. Because he's started accepting, network effect, everyone else around him also is going to start accepting. Now, once he started accepting, the person that he takes his supplies from, right, the wholesaler, is also going to think, now my retailer has all these digital rupees. How do I make sure that I am getting his business? I also take on a digital rupee account. And then he takes on a digital rupee account. Therefore, for him now, larger volumes, he'll be able to work with corporations and stuff, which will easily accept. For making corporations accept digital rupee is a no-brainer for the government. But making the masses accept it, that is going to be the tough thing. And somewhere maybe DBT. So it we might actually see the digital rupee not as an outflow from the cities to the hinterland, but it could actually be something where the hinterland rushes in and the cities start realizing, okay, we have been we have still been using UPI. We need to move on to the new form. Right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that space pans out.
Absolutely. So you talked of network effect and such an important point. So I remember 10 rupee coins, right? So I don't know if you have faced that in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. I don't know as of now what's the status, but for a very, very long time, shopkeepers did not accept 10 rupee note, 10 rupee coins, right? Because their argument was, if I accept, none of my peers are accepting it, so I'll not be able to do anything with it, and who will go to bank to redeem it, right? Though it was illegal not to accept
Accept.
10 rupee, it's a valid tender, right, from the RBI. So, but then it was not accepted. Why? Simply because network effect was not there, right? For digital rupee to be accepted, I mean that network effect has to be there, as you rightly pointed out,
True.
and direct benefit transfers (DBT) is obviously one very important step if that can be done. However, even that would have some inertia if people don't understand. So what I find, the main inertia is going to be coming in the form of the very proposition of digital rupee that cannot be converted to cash, right? I mean, even right now, money is being transferred directly to bank accounts. So people know in the hinterlands that they can redeem that money from their bank accounts, from the ATM, right? So that's not a problem. The money right now from the government does not go in cash. It goes in the bank account digitally. They can redeem it. The resistance would come when they come to realize, or when they come to know, that they will not be able to directly redeem that money in the form of cash, and that's where the resistance is going to come. Okay, and here I want to bring in this point here, that the resistance is going to be about cash, like non-convertibility into cash or non-redeemability into cash. uh, Before this discussion, we are looking into this and we're talking about it, whether digital rupee can be redeemed into the savings account of, or into a savings account or not. Now, my what I was thinking is, if the very purpose is to reduce the distribution of physical cash in the economy, okay, in that case, there should not be any way through which digital rupee can be redeemed, either directly or indirectly into cash. Okay, so basically, if I have digital rupee in my wallet, in my digital wallet, in no way I should be able to redeem it. Okay. And one way is like not allowing digital rupee to be redeemed back into the savings account. Because if I can do that, and anytime I feel, okay, let's convert into cash, I'll just redeem back into my savings account and I'll get to cash. But now as I look at it, in the initial days, so that people are more comfortable with the idea of digital rupee, I think this is not a bad idea to give that option in the beginning, that for now, digital rupee can be redeemed into savings account only. Okay, so that once people are more habituated to use digital rupee, okay, then they would not feel the need to transfer back into cash, right? It's just like a UPI thing, right? Or it's like any innovation that comes in, right? For that matter, any startup that starts, customer acquisition, market share first. So here, just to overcome the main resistance of customers or consumers or users like us, where non-redeemability of cash is a concern, that option can be given, and I think is given, that it can, that digital rupee can be redeemed into the savings account. As we go ahead, maybe at some point, gradually this option might be taken away once people are very comfortable with using digital rupee in their day-to-day affairs. Because if ultimately the reduction in physical cash is one of the stated objectives, then that option has to be taken away, that redeem into savings account. Otherwise, the point is still a liability in RBI's account. And if everyone has the option to redeem in the savings account, they'll still have to print the same amount of money, because RBI would not know who is going to redeem at what point. They'll still have to print it, right? So, but to for initial adoption, I think this feature can be allowed at least for a few years, right? What do you think? Your point of view on this?
So on this, while you were saying, I was also thinking through, and what I feel is RBI is mandated to print or to print currency notes for the amount of money that it is releasing into the system, right? When it takes up digital rupee as an option and printed currency as a alternative also, then it'll, if it wants to put in 100 crores into the market, it can say, okay, 50 crores I'm going to put in as digital money, 50 crores I'm going to print. So I'm going to go through that expense of printing 50 crores. So half my printing expense is saved. Now, because uh, 50 crores have been created as digital currency, I am liable for that money. I mean, I should have the uh, have the economy and the balances to support. I should have the gold reserves and whatever to support that money. I do not need to print it, right? Because I've put it out as digital money. Now, when banks and when customers are taking that money will remain as so. It is not that that 50 crores can be converted into 50 crores cash. The system cannot convert it. What will happen is that the banks which retain these uh, retain money, right, with their CRR rates and all those things. So banks will then retain money if people start converting into currency. The money that the banks are retaining, that will not be in the form of currency, that will be in the form of digital money, right? So therefore, uh, and thinking as a doomsday theorist, which is what governments also will need to take care of, is that what if someday there is a total failure of electricity and internet, right? Then will people be left without any money in their hands? Since the government cannot uh, assure that this cannot happen 100%, therefore it has to give the citizens the option of converting to physical currency, which can still be accepted, right? So I can, even if there is darkness all around, no connectivity, I can still give a 100 rupee note to someone and say, I want stuff worth 100 rupees, right? So therefore government will always need to allow conversion back to uh, physical currency or non technology dependent currency also, right? But to maintain this balance that they have done, which is say that RBI does not need to print these money, then the banks will need to fall in and say, okay, the reserves that we are holding it then in the digital form. So our currency reserve is going down, our printed note reserve might go down, but then we are maintaining our reserves by keeping it in the digital form, right? So I don't see 100% um, digital rupee conversion happening ever, because the government will need to ensure that money in circulation can sort of go through this transition also from digital to currency form, right? Because nobody is going to 100% support uh, an a world in which the government has, I mean, the all the money that I have is totally in the control of the government and at the mercy of the of electricity, of technology, of connectivity, right? Tomorrow, what if some private company takes over the entire connectivity of internet in India, right? So if, let's say, Geo becomes that much dominant that it's able to handle all the accounts, all the um, telecom accounts, then would Geo be able to switch off its system and say that no transactions will happen? That is effectively holding the entire economy at ransom, right? So government also thinks on those lines and needs to look at the worst case scenario, and therefore that is why they've given this option that, okay, while we do not want you to use the digital rupee as a quick transfer to cash sort of mechanism, therefore we tell you, we allow the option that you transfer to your savings account, and then now it is your relationship with your bank, right? How much is your bank allowing you to withdraw? Is your bank going to
mm,
stop you from withdrawing, right? So
mm,
uh,
mm.
they've introduced the bank as another member in this transaction, and then the bank takes the liability. Okay, if people are withdrawing um, digital rupee into the savings bank and then withdrawing from the savings bank, then I have to make sure that I have the currency notes to support that transaction.
Yeah. Yes, I did. So I guess I am on with you on this in this point, that the idea is not about 100% replacing cash, right? At least in the near
True,
future, this is not going to happen. At some point, there might be a scenario, but right now, the idea is to reduce the usage of physical cash, right?
true,
And I agree with you here that it would at least give people that assurance that no, it's not like this money stored in digital wallet is 100% gone and we can never redeem that in cash. That assurance has to be there. And once the
true.
adoption happens, maybe then those things can come in, right? But the way, so, but you know what? I have this theory that not now, maybe in another 50 years, 70, 60, 70 years, there's going to be a time when we will be doing more digital transactions. I mean,
Totally
much lesser cash or perhaps no cash at all in the world. If not 60, maybe in 100 years, this will happen because the way we are digitalizing ourselves, right? And even the mode that you're doing, even right now, we need to actually make payments from our mobile. Then that is going to be go away using IoT and all of those things. It's going to be much more seamless, and the challenges will be different then. But I think for now it's a good start. It's a good start that we are thinking in that direction, and obviously technology has enabled that.
true. In fact, if you look at what SBI allows for retail investors, is actually just a very sort of um, basic digital wallet account, right? Per transaction, you can do just
One lakh.
10,000. Yeah, so you can hold 1 lakh. per transaction you can just pay or collect 10,000 rupees, right? They have a limit of 20 transactions, um, so number of transfers or loads, right? And per day, the amount that you can load or transfer is limited at 25,000. So obviously, what they are doing is right now they are testing the waters, right? They're testing the systems to see
Yes,
we have it.
absolutely.
It is, and the good thing is that it is open testing, right? So people are going to
Yeah.
start using it. There'll be a lot of initial inertia where people are not going to accept, but then there are going to be that typical
Mm.
technology adoption curve. There's early adopters who are going to experiment and do things, and then somewhere the larger majority would start coming in, and there would be, I mean, more acceptance within the system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess these are exciting times. It's a good innovation to have, but obviously there are a lot of challenges, and I think the main challenge would come from UPI itself. I mean, the very inertia that people already are comfortable with UPI and the advantage of cash. How do you make people transition into digital rupee into more widespread adoption? That is going to be a challenge. But if it happens, and I think it might happen, will happen, uh, it will be, I think, better for the economy as we move ahead. As we are trading,
Yes.
we are trying to be a much bigger economy. You're talking $5 trillion and $10 trillion. I think for the transition to happen, this is important. I mean, we need to have our systems in place. We need to have a much more digitally literate population, because once you have a more digitally literate population, you can bring in a lot of other innovations in the system, a lot of other products into the system, which will propel growth, right? I mean, if you just look at the startup, the nature of startups that is there in the unicorns that we have, it's predominantly digital. It's predominantly digital product that they sell, right? I mean, it's the internet. It's all the unicorns that you see predominantly, right? So it's the power of this medium, power of the internet, power of the digital medium. So the more digitally literate population we have, we'll have a bigger marketplace, right? And we keep on discussing this, that India, we say it's a 125 130 crore population, but actually it's just the top 2 to 3% is the real consumers which most companies actually target, right? I mean, for their profit, for their revenues and their profits, right? The rest of it does not. I mean, the rest of it gives you your daily active users, DAO and MAU and all of those things. But money, companies make money from the top 2 to 3% of the population only. So that way, we are not a big marketplace compared to many other countries. But with a more digitally inclusive nation, more digitally literate nation, I think the marketplace will also expand. And when that expands, we'll have a lot more opportunities coming come into our country, right? So
Yeah.
these are exciting times.
Mm.
Let's see how it was. Any concluding
Yes.
thoughts from you? Yeah.
No, I was just saying we all need to wait for the El Dorado, right? Which is finding that fortune. And actually,
Yeah.
to use that oft repeated term, the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, that fortune is going to be available
Yeah.
to the economy and to companies once something like this spreads to the masses, right? And as I'd mentioned, I see this to be a wave that will, because the government can control that payment to that section, to the bottom of the pyramid. I think this is going to rise up from the bottom to the top 2%, as
Yeah.
as we call ourselves.
That is true. That is true. I mean, if the DPT thing is successful through digital rupee, then there's a good chance that this innovation would be driven from the bottom of the pyramid to
Yes.
the more urban population, right?
So
So great, George. Thank you
thank
for your times. We already have. I'm just plugging it one more. We already have written an article together for Business World. We'll give in the description. Those who are interested, they can read it, right? And we'll be back again with another exciting topic, right?
thank you.